During this video, we're going to talk about how to add assignments to your Schoology course. I'm on the materials tab and you can see that I can add materials. What I'm going to do first is add a folder. I really like to organize my assignments, discussions, assessment, materials within folders. If you look here, I have different folders with content added to the folders. Think about the structure you want to have for your learners. Do you want to do it as modules, units, perhaps curricular areas, or even weekly folders to help keep students organized and your content organized? One thing's really nice is that you can put folders within folders. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to name it. Of course, you would name it appropriate for your learners. Going to change the color. If I wanted to, I could type in text here to describe what is in this folder to let students know exactly what's in there. Maybe it's something for a project or something that is very specific to their learning. You also have a rich text editor, which is great. I can insert an image if I wanted to. I wouldn't recommend inserting a video. It doesn't serve a purpose to be in this area, but I would put a picture to perhaps make it more engaging for my students, more aesthetically pleasing in my course. So if you look here, I can have my folder appear on a certain date and then disappear after another date. So you have it within a certain time frame. I can have it published, unpublished. I can have it published on a start date. So I could build my course and have the folders publish on certain days. So maybe every Monday a folder publishes or every month a folder publishes. That way, all the content within that folder will not be viewable until that publish date, or I can publish it during a date range. I'm going to keep it on publish and click create. As you can see, it pops right down to the bottom. That's how Schoology works. But if I grab hold of the folder, I can move it around wherever I want. I'm just going to move it to the top here so we can see it. You'll see this is, I put a picture in this one. You'll see the text shows up. I always have a course information, and usually I have that always at the top of the course. In this, I have contact information, a discussion question that stays open the entire time of the course, as well as sometimes I'll add our year-long learning targets, our agreements, perhaps a syllabus, things that aren't going to change, and you're going to want to keep them in a spot where students know they always will be able to find them. So I'm going to select the title of my folder to open it, and that is how I can add an assignment. So I'm going to click on materials and click on add assignment. Of course, you're going to want to name your assignment something that makes sense to your student. I have a very detailed, rich text editor so that I can really give students great directions. Research has shown that you want to give students as much direction as possible when you're working in an online course, because you might not be there for them to ask clarifying questions. One thing I always like to do is have student-friendly learning targets at the top of the assignment so students know exactly why they're here and what they're going to be learning. And I just keep that at the top, and then I'm going to add directions. So when I do this, I add the directions. I'm going to bold some of these things. I put it in all caps, and then I'm going to use the number list. And I just go ahead and so I'm being very explicit, right? So I have directions. I'm going to bold that. Read. I'm going to bold that. And then give them step-by-step directions on what they need to be doing. I actually am also going to highlight this, and I'm going to increase the font size to 18. My learning targets I keep at 12, but the directions that I want to give my students, I'm really making sure they're big in here. So I could have read or I could have watch for a video, and I could add a YouTube video if my district has implemented a different video streaming service in my Schoology environment, the enterprise environment. I could add those. I can attach documents from my Google Drive or my OneDrive, or I can upload a file from my computer, add a link to a file, upload a file from my resources. That's very similar to going through inserting content through Google Drive. So I'm going to add a resource. And it embeds the resource right in there. I could also add a resource and have it go as a link if I wanted to. So let me show you what that looks like. And it will add it as a link to this resource. So it's right here. So when you're using the insert content, it's going to put it within this canvas here. If I'm attaching from my computer, it's going to attach it here, just so you're aware. If I added a link here, it would put it below this text field area. So I always like to have a due date for my students. I think it's really important for them to have a clear idea of when things are due. It helps keep them organized, shows up on their calendar, also shows up in their upcoming work on the right-hand side of the course. So it's really just a way to keep them successful in learning. I'm going to add a category. This is assignments. This will then show up under assignments in the grade book. I could keep it as ungraded if I wanted to, and I could create a new grading category. If I select that, this will just have me type the name of a category, and that will automatically make a new category in my grade book and grade setup. I'm going to exit out of that one and just put it on assignments. If I have multiple grading periods for this course, maybe this is a full year course, so I have 4 grading periods, I would have be able to select that, or I could say no grading period. I'm going to keep it on second. If I wanted to, I could align a rubric for this, and I can align learning objectives. This is very similar to what we showed you when you were creating rubrics and when we talked about the grade book and grade setup. I can shift through any of these. My district might have custom ones. If I want to get to the state standards for the next gen ELA and math, I would click on state standards, then filter down to New York to find those. It is automatically defaulted as unlocked. You'll see that that's grayed out. It's automatically defaulted as submissions are enabled, published to student, grading statistics are disabled. I'm not going to talk about that right now. And comments are enabled. I keep comments enabled because that means students can ask me clarifying questions about the assignment. Maybe they're confused from the directions. If I put this in a folder that is not published, this will not be published. So keep that in mind. It defaults to whatever the folder is. If I were in an enterprise version of Schoology, you would see 3 little dots here where I could specifically assign this assignment to students. And I will show you that in a minute. So I'm going to click create, and you'll see that it adds my assignment right to this folder. My gear on the right-hand side allows me to change different components of this. I can edit it, I can unpublish it, I can move it to a different folder within this course. I can copy it to another course, I can delete it, and I can save it to my resources. I'm going to go back to my folder because I do want to show you another aspect that you can do with folders as well. So with this folder, I can also edit, unpublish, move it to within another folder, copy to other courses, saved resources, and delete. This is a basic account. I'm going to show you really quickly what it looks like with an enterprise account. I am now logged into a Schoology Enterprise account, and I want to show you the difference between the basic and the enterprise. In the enterprise, you'll see I have these three little dots. When I select them, it allows me to individually assign. So I can select that and a field will pop up and I can start typing the names of my students or grading groups that I have created to individually assign this assignment. So I selected a student, maybe this student needs reinforcement or needs more challenging work, and only this student and myself and other administrators in the course will be able to see this assignment. So you'll see I added the student's name. I'm going to click create. And then this student will be able to access this assignment. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you are in um, a folder, you can, in an enterprise environment, individually assign a folder as well. What's really nice about this is that if I individually assign this folder, I could create a group that's working on a project together or have my students broken up into different groups for different reasons. And so I could assign a grading group to this. So think about that with the enterprise version. I can individually assign. I also can add student completion rules, which we are going to talk about in a later video.